Hi everybody, welcome to the latest community conversation here at Atlantic Health System. My name is Luke Margolis. I'm the Corporate Communications Director for Atlantic Health. And today, it is my pleasure to be joined by Senior Vice President and Chief Human Resources Officer for Atlantic Health System, Nikki Sumpter. Nikki, welcome.
Thank you, Luke. Thank you. It's great to be here.
It has been a pleasure having you here today, and I'm looking forward to our conversation because we've done a couple of these now, and over the last few months, and really we have tried to find ways to make them as informative and valuable to our audiences as we possibly can. And the subjects we're going to talk about today, I think, are definitely going to do that. And we're talking about ways that individuals, organizations can all ready themselves to be their most successful. We've been calling it "Let's Get to Work."
Okay.
So it's a pretty good topic, and we're going to move quickly because we have a lot of ground to cover. But before we do that, I want to just share with everybody a little bit of the nuts and bolts about how this will work, so they can follow along.
All right.
Nikki and I are going to chat for a little bit about a couple of topics, as I mentioned, and then we are going to try to integrate some questions from all of you guys. So you are a participant in this as well. Please add your questions to the thread, both whether you're watching along on Facebook, or I know that we are now excited to be on LinkedIn Live as well.
One of my favorite places.
That's right. So, and you can of course find Nikki on LinkedIn as well. And so please share your thoughts with us, and so we can involve you in our conversation too. And then this will air also on News 12 Plus on weekends. So if you're more comfortable maybe in front of the television instead of on a device, and you got to bail out a little early from this, you can catch the whole thing if you get News 12 Plus as well. So that's kind of the lay of the land. As I said, we have a lot to get to, so if you're ready, let's jump right into it.
I'm ready.
All right. So let's start first. First of all, we've been at work this whole time. So the idea of let's get to work is sort of not quite exactly translatable for us because we've kind of been at this the whole time. So let's start first with that. How have we as an organization, and from your perspective as somebody who's really responsible for all 17,000 team members we have here, how do you think the last few months have gone for us and our team, and what are some of the things that you are most proud of about how we've been doing?
Wow. So our team has done a phenomenal job over the last few months in caring for patients, families, and each other through COVID. This has been a very trying time for all, and we have rallied together. We have moved with extreme confidence. In a very chaotic time, we performed in lockstep without chaos. And that has been very beneficial for all of us. As I look back, all I can say is that we did an exceptional job, and we should all be proud of the work that we've done. And really, the community has really supported us. And so it has been, while it's been a trying time, certainly we're all appreciative of all of the support of our family, friends, and our community.
In our position as a healthcare organization, we sort of remain at the ready, right? But there are a lot of organizations who could not have seen something like this coming, don't usually prepare for these kinds of disruptions in their general sense. I want to talk about this concept of change and being resilient and able to pivot like that. Is change something that's just sort of inherent in our culture? Like how did we get ourselves ready to be adaptable? And what should other organizations be thinking about as they look to carry forward with everything going on?
Absolutely. So I think that this has been a time of preparation for us and for our team. Over the past few years, our team has worked through an electronic health record, come together as a system. And we have done it in a way that has been both thoughtful, with a plan, with an implementation in sight, and we've tweaked along the way. And so we felt like we were really prepared for COVID. While there were a lot of things that were going on, personal protective equipment, we needed that, just the whole supply management, making sure that we had enough folks here to be able to care for patients. All of that planning that we've done in the past really prepared us. We prepare for pandemics. This was a little different, and we did have challenges, but I really believe that our team stepped up and we were able to move through this in a very orderly way. But we have our sights set on the future, and we want to make sure that we're prepared for any potential surge.
In terms of, and that's a great point, because I do want to get to where we are focused now, right? Because if you have to have a bit of a forward-looking glance, right? You can't be just sort of looking at where you were and where you are currently. It's funny, you and I were chatting the other day, and we talked about this idea of everybody had a vision for where they wanted to be in 2020,
Oh, wow.
right? I mean, everybody must have had goals,
Yes.
certainly. How do you try to, as our organization or other organizations, how do you get back on track? Are your goals just different now? How do you begin to start looking forward in light of everything?
That is a great point. So we had a lot of conversation about that, and what 2020 may have looked like for us as individuals. All of us make goals and prepare as you go into the new year. And there were things we certainly wanted to accomplish, but who knew we would be disrupted by COVID-19? What I will say is that the plans for the future just include this, right? Mm-hmm. You've heard our CEO talk about coexisting with COVID. Mm-hmm. It doesn't necessarily mean that everything's off the table that we had planned for this year. But certainly, we must include the health of our community and public health as we move forward. We have to be thinking about that. So I do not believe plans are off the table. We just have to nuance differently and think about what our next steps will be and how we will move through that fluidly.
I would think the same applies to individuals.
Absolutely, right? Absolutely. I think about new decade. Wow, how big is that?
Right.
I think about, even my own daughter had thoughts about, I'm going back to school after spring break. None of that happened.
Not, right?
None of those things happened. But what I do know is that she still completed her freshman year, right?
Congratulations.
Those things happened, and we moved through it. So, what I will say is that we all individually have a goal. That goal can still be achieved, but a new level of focus has to be there. You just have to go about it a little bit differently than maybe you had planned.
Nikki, we're getting a lot of questions from folks who are seeking maybe the next step in their career journey, mm-hmm. whether it be at a new organization, a new job per se, or a way to grow in their current role. And we can address, I definitely want to jump to the individuals in a moment too, but before we get to those folks, I want to just talk a little bit about the general sense of kind of where we are. Organizations, now we're talking a lot about reopening as an economy, everybody kind of getting back to work. For the organizations that are looking to bring people back in, to create those jobs that people are looking to get, mm-hmm. Or to bring folks back into their current roles. Mm-hmm. What are some important things that you think they should be keeping in mind? What are some things we are keeping in mind as folks are returning to, I guess, a new normal, I guess mm-hmm. is the way we're phrasing it?
Absolutely.
What are we thinking about?
I think the safety of your team is going to be the most important when returning to work, right? Okay. Making sure that you have the appropriate tools, resources to include personal protective equipment, mm-hmm. to be able to keep your team members safe so that whatever your business is, that you're able to serve your customers. So that will continue to be important. I think just a heightened perspective, though, and focus on team member safety.
So for some organizations, that might mean having masks in the office for
Absolutely.
The first time.
That may be signage across the across your areas, whether it's a restaurant or an engineering firm. You need to make sure that you give visual cues around your spaces so that people know where to stand. It's not always inherent to be able to think, okay, we're 6 feet apart. So you may need to have a visual cue. You need to be able to tell people where to stand in the elevator. Right? Who
Seems
would
like
think?
A simple thing,
right?
But
you can't
forget.
all get on the elevator right now at the same time.
Yeah.
But I think thinking about what are those precautions that have been drilled in us over the last few months? Mm-hmm. How do you incorporate them in your work environment?
I always, and it's sort of a approach I've used to communication throughout my career, but it does feel very much like a two-way street, right? So those organizations are conveying information and safety information to their teams. Is there a role for them to receive it back, right? Should there be a, for lack of a better term, listening or feedback mechanism or something whereby those organizations can say, my people on the front lines are telling me this part of their job means they have to be 2 feet from each other. But maybe the management never knew that before.
Right.
How important is that sense of listening or feedback for organizations?
I think we're in a time where listening is more important than ever. And we've had several conversations about that. Listening around the personal safety that I need, but also listening in the context of what's going on across the world. Listening and giving and receiving feedback remains important, right? Two-way communication, not one way, but two-way communication needs to happen. So we need to make sure that we create environments where team members have an opportunity to voice concerns about coming back to work. Address any fears that may be there. And then once back in the workplace, checking in to make sure that people have what they need. I'm always reminded that we need to listen, and listen not with the intent to respond, but just to listen. And that remains so important during these times that we live in today. Again, who knew that January, February, March would be so different than 2019? And so listening and communication will always remain as a key tool that we need to use.
The willingness to create an environment where team members feel comfortable enough to do that, is that the kind of thing that, for many organizations that may not have that culture in place, it may seem like that's a boulder that's impossible to move. But is it? I mean, does it involve a huge sea change, or are there, is it too late to start, I guess is the way I'm looking to articulate that question. If you don't have that culture now, should you just sort of, well, we don't have that culture, that's not for us, let's just move on and find another way to do it?
It's never too late. It's never too late to have a conversation with a peer. It's never too late to have a conversation with a leader. It's never too late to have a conversation with your customers. I think you just have to make an investment of time. That's all. Us talking is free, right? And so investing in the time, making time for the conversation is important.
And then one last one on work environment, and then we'll pivot to the individuals, because I know we have received some questions. In fact, we have a college senior who has a question that we'll get to as well, on just how to enter into the workforce in this day and age. But for organizations that have been used to having their teams perform their roles and function in a specific way, to now have to say, well, maybe we have to look at different ways of doing that for different roles, right? How do organizations prepare themselves to do that? What are some of the things that they can think about so as to say, maybe yesterday is not going to be like today, and tomorrow won't be like today, and we have to position ourselves to best do that? What would be your advice to an organization that needs to consider
For
that?
an organization and for leadership, what I would say is that you really need to think about productivity and how will you measure productivity. Do you have an environment where you can discharge some of those, whether it's a call? Are you able to equip the team member to do the work from another location? Those things are important. I think you need to sit down and say what can be done from a remote location. That doesn't necessarily mean at a home. We're looking here at Atlantic to figure out how can we expand in warmer months to outside, creating environments where people can spread out, do their work differently. So I think just sit back, think, and reimagine what does work look like. That's important no matter what industry you're in.
All right, so like I said, and I appreciate everybody who's doing this, we have some questions that are coming in, and they are from individuals who are looking to take that next step to better themselves.
Okay, this is my favorite.
And this, I knew, we had to do the other stuff first, because I knew once you and I get on this, we'll be this the rest of the way. So let's start first. For folks who are currently either out of work or in between responsibilities, the biggest barrier to me, and one that's been reflected with a couple of these questions, is how do I get either a recruiter or somebody at a place of business to see me, to get, to say, hey, to recognize me, to bump me to the top of the list, whatever the euphemism you want to say. How do you break through? What are some of the things let's start there and we can go from there. What are some of the things you would recommend to those folks?
Okay, so I'm going to give you all the secrets.
Oh boy.
Call them, email, visit their LinkedIn page, send messages, fill out your applications online, send your resume paper resumes still work. Send that information and continue to be in front of the talent acquisition or consultant or recruiter. Make sure that your skills are listed clearly and make sure they match the job that you're interested in.
Okay.
If you have knowledge but you haven't actually had the experience, that is okay, right? That is okay. Make sure you include those words because now technology parses through your resume. And so presents the most experienced candidates to recruiters. So
there's like algorithms and
there
things
are algorithms that also do that. Now, are they always the most effective? Most times they are. But there are other ways you can get around that. Create relationships with folks. I have people reach out to through LinkedIn to me all the time, and I connect them with recruiters and tell them the path to apply for jobs. And by the way, Atlantic Health is recruiting.
That's right.
You can go to our careers page, and we'd love to have you look at our opportunities and see if there's something out there. But there are various ways in which you can engage, whether it be Atlantic Health or any business in a community. Go by there. Take your resume, ask where the Human Resources Department is, and take your information.
So it's sort of like that, the old sports sort of analogy. You miss 100% of the pitches you never swing.
Hey,
right?
try.
So you got to try.
Yes.
In terms of things that they can do for themselves to make themselves more attractive candidates, what is it as simple as taking classes, improving skill sets? What are some ways that we can make ourselves more attractive to organizations?
So right now is COVID has brought some really great things as well. There's a lot of free education out there at major universities, and there are tools such as LinkedIn Learning that allow you to brush up or get some new skills. Coursera, edX. Just Google or use any search engine and go out there and find where you can get free education. Look for courses that you may be interested in, and there is a university, a technical school, a community college that will possibly, from around the country, around the world, that will be able to offer the course for free. I think the most important thing, though, before you even start there, discover what your passion is. Like, what are you passionate about? What is it that you enjoy doing? What do you value? What's important to you? Right?
Now, is that because you'll be better at it, or
because
more
you'll
fulfilling?
be better at it? If you choose something you love, don't choose a job just to choose a job.
Right.
And if you need a job just because you need a job right now, that's okay. But spend time right now discovering your passions while all this free learning is out there.
Interesting. So that was Jennifer from Facebook. If you were following along and saw that, we appreciate the question. So in terms of those who already maybe have positions.
Okay.
So you're at an organization and you are saying to yourself, the dynamic has completely changed now and there's opportunity for me to proceed in this organization. Is it as simple as going into your supervisor and saying, I want to do more or I want more responsibility? What are some things that people who are already in positions and are looking to grow can do?
So remember the discussion a few minutes ago about communication. Leaders should always have conversation with their team members about what's next, right?
Okay, yep.
What is it that you're interested in doing? How can we cultivate your development, et cetera? So those conversations should continue to take place in 2020, right? That is not taboo. It can be done virtually as well.
Okay.
Okay.
Sure.
So it doesn't have to be,
The
like we
traditional
are
in
right
the
now.
office kind of
Correct.
thing. Right. Okay.
That can be done virtually, but have the conversation. I think as an individual if you are looking to do something different, ask for special projects. Are there any projects, or is there anything that you need help with? It could be we want to enter another line of business, right? This is a time where many organizations are looking for other revenue sources. Well, someone has to do research, right? So maybe you offer up to do some research. Maybe you're really good and passionate about that. Offer up using the skills that you have. Know where you want to go, but sometimes you have to move around differently in order to move forward. Okay.
Those conversations, or we've been talking about the value and the importance of conversation and expressing that two-way street. I want to tie that together with the safety concept. So for people who may be looking for a new job or may be looking to grow in their current organization, what do you think, in light of COVID and everything that's going on, team members have a right to expect from their employers, from their organizations? Whether it be the type of working environment they have now or even just an open door, what do you think people should expect from their employer? It can't just be all the other way, the employee doing what's expected of them. What do you think are some things they should expect?
I would look for organizations that create an environment for collaboration, teamwork, where you can exhibit the pride you have in what you're able to offer. I would look for an organization that supports inclusion and diversity, respect for fellow colleagues and one to another, respect for customers, right, and understands the importance of the relationship with our clients or our customers. I would also look for an organization that is supporting the community in which it is situated, right? And has a level of corporate social responsibility and feels passion about what is going on around them. Those are things that would be important to most. And if you, for those who are in human resources, as we talk about that across the country, those are the things that we are seeing rise up in younger generations as well. But also for those of us who have been in the workforce for a long time, those things are also important. So camaraderie, respect, pride, but there has to be a high degree of trust in the workplace. And that is really the essence of great workplaces, which Atlantic Health System is a great workplace.
12 years running.
Absolutely. Can I do a commercial?
One more thing before we pivot to the question here. Atlantic Health does offer other organizations sort of assistance with some of these things. I know we have a role to play. So for some organizations who may be saying, I love it. I love everything you just said, but I don't know how to go about executing on any of it or improving our setup. There are some ways in which we can assist organizations as well, right?
Absolutely.
So don't be shy about reaching out. I know we have an entire group of folks here at Atlantic Health System on the corporate side.
Yes, corporate health. We have a great corporate health team that is really supporting. And I'd love to give a shout out to Kevin Joyce and Kathy McCarthy. They do a phenomenal job in this space. But they work very collaboratively with organizations to really find out what they need. And so we're always here to support our community. So
reach out. As Aisha on LinkedIn did, she's a nursing grad. She wants us to touch on, if we can, about how COVID has impacted nurse residency programs, external candidates. Has COVID changed how we go about bringing folks in from the outside, or has it even made it even more important now, more than ever?
So we continue to hire almost 100 folks per week.
Wow.
That did not slow down during COVID. We are always in need of individuals that want to work in healthcare and work in support of our patients. As it relates to nursing, I think what we saw in partnership with our Chief Nursing Executive, Trish O'Keefe, who's also the president of Morristown Medical Center. She really worked with our CNOs across the system to develop ways for nurses, new nurses, to gain experience. So I think you will see that many organizations are looking at ways to enable new nurses as well as nurses who have experience to come in during this time. And you're gaining more skills, more valuable skills, and like it's almost an advanced course. And Trish would probably pop my hand for that, but it is always quality care. So what I will say is that we provide the education and development to make sure that all team members, our nursing colleagues and professionals as well, are supported as they enter our workplace.
It's been I'm just thinking about the folks on the front lines of healthcare and the incredible challenge that they have had, and we all have had really over the last few months. How important is resilience in your mind of an organization being mindful of the fatigue and the exhaustion or the challenge that their workers face? And it can be really in any industry, manufacturing. I'm sure there are people who've been making valuable products in our new environment who've been working 24/7, who have to keep that thing in mind too. How important is resilience?
You know, and I'm sure we have listeners and folks who are watching this from around the country, and so you may be in different spaces right now as it relates to COVID and the coronavirus. What I would say is that as you have opportunity, I think it is going to be increasingly important that we pay attention to the need for decompression. And the need for folks to step away and to get rejuvenated. When you have a lull, and I'm not saying that your business is at a complete shutdown, or you've got to find times to schedule individuals so that they can decompress. And that's what we're actually doing right now. We're trying to make sure that people have an opportunity, our team members have an opportunity to get the rest they need in case of a potential surge. So we're trying to be prepared, get ahead of it, and using time right now because we're in New Jersey. As our cases have gone down, we're using this time to get prepared, making sure we have the right personal protective equipment, making sure we have the right teammates that are on board, and making sure that people get the rest that they need. And so resilience, our resilience is going to remain probably one of the most important things that we can focus on. But even through it all, in the midst of it all, even if you can't let folks go, what you can do is create spaces for people to talk about what they're facing. Conversation, again, we can't underestimate that. But creating groups where they can decompress and talk about what they're facing. And so those are just a few things that we're doing at Atlantic.
So we have just a couple minutes left, and a couple more folks have been asking questions, so I want to make sure we get to them. Juan on LinkedIn is wondering, are there openings at our organization in the technology space? And apparently he also is checking in for his wife as well. Good job, Juan. Wants to know how she can help break into the hospital and healthcare space. So technology and healthcare, and then just sort of healthcare in general. What's your recommendation?
So technology, yes. And you can reach out to me directly and I'll get you connected. Again, you can also visit Atlantic Health Careers page. In addition to that, I think the other question is, how do you get into healthcare? Remember, healthcare isn't just technology, nursing, doctors, right? It's respiratory therapy, it's HR, it's communications, it's marketing, it's cameramen. There are all different types of roles. The warehouse, we have a ton of different jobs, not a ton, but you know what I mean. We have a number of jobs that are out there. And so it takes all of us to be able to just deliver to one patient. It takes all of us. So please know that if you're an architect, you're an engineer, we also have those types of opportunities.
Food service?
Food services. And so just know that healthcare is made up of a number of careers that really come together to make patient care possible.
Ralph on Facebook wants to know, any particular advice for those over 64?
Absolutely, we need you too. The experience that individuals who have been in the workforce for a longer period of time is always necessary, right? That experience is what helps to inform younger generations. And so we have 5 different generations in our workforce, and we're proud of that diversity as well.
Wow. Nikki, I have time for one more, and this one, it's just a question really about your the work you do and how satisfying it is to be able to work with people and help them on their journey. Share a thought, if you would, and we have just a minute left, but the last couple of months, I'm sure, have been particularly challenging for you, but you're, in the role you're in and in the work you do, how satisfying is it to see people giving their most, doing their most on behalf of an organization, and how rewarding is it for you to be a part of creating a structure that allows that to happen?
It has been very rewarding. I will say that I chose the right field, because I'm able to support people to live their dreams. I could have not really chosen a better profession. I am so proud of the work that I'm able to engage in, and I'm so proud to work with all of the team members at Atlantic. So, I can't say enough about how great this place is, and I just really have to say thank you to our community for supporting us.
Well, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. This was hard.
Well, it's the lights, really.
Yes,
it's the lights and the
hot.
masks.
And the masks.
You guys don't understand how hard it is to breathe and talk through these things for this long a period of time. But Nikki, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, folks, thanks for joining us on our latest community conversation. You can catch the full thing in the thread if you missed any part of it. You can also see it on LinkedIn Live and, of course, on News 12 Plus on the weekends. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.